Magical tools. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So, the theme for today's video is aphrodisiacs. I'm going to tell you my top 10 favorites. I'm also going to talk about some of the general things you can do to improve your health and thereby improve other things, shall we say. And then we're going to talk about what not to use for the best optimal experience. And it would be very difficult for me to talk about aphrodisiacs if I don't put on my leather gloves. Book that I will be working from. You can see all my little tabs here. That's so I don't have to try to turn the pages with my gloves on. This book is called The Book of Aphrodisiacs, and it is by this person named Dr. Raymond Stark. And I think that ND is naturopathy. Some of his other books, just in case you were curious. He's also written things like the Psychedelics Handbook, Medicinal Herbs in New Zealand, a few textbooks about herbs, and Be Not the Gods. I wonder what that one's about. So this is the book that I will be using as my source, my primary source. Number 10. Flagellation. Some people consider it deviant. Some people consider it quite normal. However, striking the lower back and loins of the human body sharply and rhythmically could affect the generative organs and produce erotic results in receptive individuals. Flagellation was widely practiced in the past as a means of sharpening and augmenting pleasures, but also as a remedy for certain general ailments. For example, the Roman thinker Seneca regarded flagellation as an acceptable treatment for ague. Tommaso Campanella, who was an Italian monk and philosopher, recommended flogging to clear up abdominal obstructions. And physicians of the Middle Ages beat their patients to increase blood circulation and augment muscular energy. So, it is still practiced today by some people, obviously. And such an activity stimulates the circulation of the blood, increases body secretions, and tends to increase body heat, particularly in areas adjoining the part of the body that you are flagellating. It interacts between the physical and nervous functions of the lower spinal region. So there is another practice that is akin to this, that is called urtication. Now, the difference in the two practices is that in flagellation you can use whatever you have lying around. Urtication is performed with stinging nettles. Now, some of you might decide that's a step you'd like to take, but I always invite you to receive informed consent before taking part in any of these activities. So, aphrodisiac number 9 of my favorite aphrodisiacs is licorice. And of course, there's that quote from Jerry Garcia about the Grateful Dead, that people who like licorice really like it, and those who don't like it think it's kind of disgusting. And he, of course, was saying that that was similar to his band, the Grateful Dead, and people's enjoyment of their music. So, licorice is a native of Asia and Southern Europe, and its common name, licorice, actually is a corruption of the term for its genus, which is Glycyrrhiza. It contains the female hormone estrogen, and according to ancient beliefs, a woman who chews on a piece of licorice root will become passionate. Licorice root can supply smaller, more therapeutic doses of estrogen if you're in your menopause years. And in Chinese medicine, licorice species are second only in importance to ginseng. Several countries utilize the root as a tonic, a stimulant, a rejuvenant, a pectoral, so like an expectorant, and an emollient. And some manual laborers chew on it to reduce fatigue. It is somewhat of a stimulant. One thing it can be used for in witchcraft also is that if you carry a cross made of 2 pieces of licorice root bound with red yarn, it should ward off injury and harmful vibrations. And almost all herbalists stock a good supply of licorice root. So next, number 8 is hibiscus. Hibiscus. It is a shrub, blossoms that you can brew into tea, and those have just been dried and not candied. In the San Francisco Valley of Brazil, that shrub of hibiscus serves as a sexual stimulant. In Mato Grosso, some species of the genus Heteropterus are utilized as aphrodisiacs, and the people call them no de cachorro. The wild-growing plant with large, varicolored flowers can frequently be observed in city gardens. So one of the things that I like a lot about hibiscus is its elegance. It has a very wonderful, a little bit of a sharp and sour flavor when it's brewed into tea. And then, of course, the candied hibiscus blossoms are exceptionally divine. So I greatly recommend those. Number 7 on my list of favorite aphrodisiacs. This has been kind of an overhyped ingredient in a lot of faux gourmet cooking recently, in the past few years. But there's really no diminishing the glory of something that is truly great, even if it is by overexposure. And that is the truffle. There's something very erotic, first of all, in the way that a pig would root through the soil to uncover such a treasure. The ancient Romans appreciated the truffle for its aphrodisiac properties and also the delicate flavor it imparts to food. In fact, they came close to stripping the province of Libya of its particularly fine truffles. They were also imported from Greece and other parts of Africa. The truffle is considered delicacy even today, and it is esteemed by both sexes for its stimulative powers. Esteemed by the whole spectrum of sexes for its stimulative powers. So number 6 on my list is one of my all-time favorite snacks, which is pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are a great source of many nutrients, especially magnesium, and I often find myself to be magnesium deficient, so they're the perfect snack for me. They are considered preventative and a remedy for male impotence and prostate troubles. So, as I mentioned, they contain large quantities of magnesium. They also have iron, phosphorus, calcium, and vitamin A, and the B vitamins. The substance or combination of substances that contribute to male potency, prostate health, and probably fertility has not been fully isolated, but those are a good cluster of nutrients that can help in that area. In the United States, apparently it is illegal to advertise that anything is useful as an aid to male potency. Now, I think the laws must have changed since this book was written, because otherwise they wouldn't be advertising things like Viagra or Cialis the way that they do. But I haven't really looked into why that might not have been an issue for them. So, prices do rise, but they are still a pretty inexpensive snack. Like, I can find them pretty cheaply, especially places that sell bulk items. Raw seeds, however, are preferable to the roasted ones because that's going to destroy a lot of the nutritional value. And there are other substances inside the pumpkin seeds that tend to help specifically with prostate health, and would be useful especially for men as they get older. But that's not saying that eating them will put hair on your chest. There are other things that are much more effective for that. Number 5 on my list is fragrance. The way that someone smells, or certain aromas. Because I know that it was in fashion for a while for like those body sprays that smell like candy and cookies and stuff. I know that was really in vogue for a while, but I kind of like not smelling like food, I guess. So there's always pheromones, and those are actually like below kind of the odor threshold a lot of the time, that it's more like something that your nose picks up that you're not fully conscious of. Sometimes that's the case. Pleasing scents were enjoyed by ancient Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, and Europeans in the early moments of Western civilization. And they're still being used for attractive purposes to this day. Psychologists deduce that when a man offers a gift of perfume to a woman, he is asking her in his own way to entrap him in sexuality. So a lot of people think the best fragrances are the more natural ones, and that could be true. I think that it's up to your personal taste. Everyone enjoys something a little bit different. Some people, and they don't really go into this here, but some people really enjoy the odor of leather or of latex rubber or things like that because of certain associations they have. But natural fragrances that are mentioned here are sandalwood, patchouli. Patchouli, like licorice, I think is a bit of an acquired taste. Violets, roses, heliotropes. Heliotrope can be a bit of an old lady fragrance, I think, in this particular day and age, but perhaps it will have its day again. Jasmine, olivdenum, and other wild flowers. Some scents are very strong. They call them like animalic scents. Others are much more delicate. So there's a Turkish perfume that is composed of myrrh, musk, rosewater, camphor, and olivdenum. That is quite a tongue twister. Anyhow, this is a fragrance they use as an aphrodisiac. And it's usually applied to skin and or clothing. And of course, then he goes on to talk about the power of pheromones in the animal kingdom, talking about butterflies, dogs, wolves, and foxes, and how you can sometimes tell what season it is by the aroma in the air. So, aphrodisiac number 4 on my list. We're now getting towards the top 3. We're not quite there yet. Number 4 on my list is ginseng. Ginseng is awesome for energy. It grows wild in secluded parts of Asia and the United States. is even venerated in like China and Korea. It has been the subject of debates in several countries. It's a very controversial herb. Its root remains the most expensive medicinal plant that the author can think of. Dr. Raymond Stark is the author of this book. And so then the second most expensive would be golden seal. Ginseng is consumed by anybody who can afford it, and even the leaves are sold as an expectorant and an emetic, so ridding the body of different fluids. As far back as the 16th century, entire tribes of Native Americans were digging up Panax quinquefolium, which is the North American species of the herb American ginseng. And the Meskwakis tribe were known to concoct a special love potion from ginseng, mica, snake meat, gelatin, and wild columbine. A young girl of the tribe would use the mixture to find a husband by feeding it to an unsuspecting male. I wonder how she managed to inveigle him to sample such an atrocious mingling of ingredients. Well, I don't know, Dr. Stark, that's just like your opinion or whatever. Ginseng is employed as a remedy for debility, impotence, spermatorrhea. So I guess that's too much or not enough. Fevers, coughs, nausea during pregnancy, dyspepsia, chronic malaria. But of course you can also use quinine for that. And there are other ailments mostly related to one's energy levels. So now we're getting into the top three, the most important ones of all. Number 3 of my favorite aphrodisiacs is Damiana. It's a potency restorative, and the leaves of the Damiana plant are typically used in Mexico and the southwestern part of the United States. It's native to that area, but it can be found elsewhere for sale or purchase. The leaves are exalted for their aphrodisiac and tonic effects. They have an unidentified substance, which seems to work well when sizable amounts are taken. So you can smoke this herb. You can also drink it in tea. And another thing that they don't really mention here, but it's really awesome for your dreams. So one thing I like to do is couple Damiana with mugwort, especially in tincture form. And this provides the catalyst for visionary experience. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to make you enter an altered state. What it does is provide you with that openness in order to attain those things much more organically. And it's not the same kind of really intense experience that you would get with psychedelics. Number 2 on my list is honey. So this could be wild honey or raw honey. There is unprocessed Chinese honey called sukung, which is used to strengthen the will, lighten the load of the body, and turn away hunger and senility. Honey does have very profound preservative properties. Let me see. So then also in Mexico, wild honey, untouched, unpurified, unrefined, is popular among men as a potency medication. It is also used to speed up childbirth. And commercially available honey, like in the grocery store, you would want to go to a specialty store where they raise the bees and collect the honey and everything themselves. Because once the honey is heated up or pasteurized, that destroys a lot of its effect. So you have to get raw or wild honey. Maybe you'll be lucky and bees will start building honeycombs inside your house, and then you get the honey for free with the purchase of one beekeeper to remove the honeycombs. Drum roll, please. My number one aphrodisiac. It's a bit controversial, but I do live in California, so it's legal here. Cannabis. Oh, you heard me the first time. It grows just about everywhere. It is not a reliable aphrodisiac because you have to know what strain you're using, etc. Can have vastly different effects, especially if you take too much. And it also depends on the person and their mental and physical condition. So, it's mostly to release inhibitions, and it also will make you think in a much more open way, similar to what I was saying about Damiana and mugwort. And of course now, we have many forms of THC available, so you don't have to smoke marijuana. You can also get tinctures or other extracts in edible form or capsule form, many different varieties, so that you can control your dosage much better. Cannabis is actually a stimulant and a mild psychedelic. It is not a narcotic. A lot of people think that it is a depressant, but actually it has a stimulating effect. So I do caution those of you who have heart conditions, especially because the marijuana and cannabis products that are available today are much more potent than they were like back in the 60s and 70s. And I also want to point out, since we are talking about a scheduled substance, that I am not a medical professional. I'm pretty sure the guy who wrote this book was a medical professional. But always consult with your general physician before taking anything that you think might have effects on your person. In other words, this is not my responsibility what you choose to do with this information. So, in the Far East, cannabis is employed as an aphrodisiac, a stimulant, and as a sedative. Medical writings of the early Hindus indicate that medicinal usage of cannabis was known to the people of India even prior to 1000 BC, so that's a long time. The plant bore names which translated into Mother of Sorrow and Heavenly Guide. And people in India still mix the leaves and seeds with musk and honey to create an effective concoction. And then they talk about keef, which is made by fortifying marijuana with its resins and then allowing blue mold to grow on it for which time the resulting product is dried and smoked, and that increases its potency. And the Chinese have made use of every single part of the cannabis plant for at least 5,000 years. So that's a really long time. Other ancient civilizations understood the drug's medical and euphoric values. So Galen, the pig farmer, you remember him? He started doing autopsies on people in ancient Greece, and it wigged everybody out. He wrote about AD 160 that cannabis baked in cakes could initiate a feeling of well-being. So, if the first medical examiner thinks it's a good idea, right? 3,000 years ago, the Scythians cultivated cannabis plants along the shore of the Volga River. And they would actually gather up the plants, and when they would do steam baths, they would throw the plants onto the heat source for the steam baths, that fire, to produce a euphoric effect. And then he goes on to mention that, here in the United States, they decided not to have fun anymore and to make it illegal. So, never forget that the information I have just provided you is for entertainment purposes only. Don't tell your parents. So the next thing I want to talk about, especially in reference to this book, come closer, is how your general good health can have a positive effect on your intimate encounters with other people. So, there's actually, in cherry stones, for example, let me see if I can find that part. Cherry stones are very high in a couple of controversial and FDA-banned B vitamins, vitamins B15 and B17, otherwise known as pancamic acid and amygdalin. Vitamin B17 is also sometimes called laetrile, and vitamin B15 is believed to inhibit degeneration of the body, and B17 has become a subject of controversy because of its use in the treatment of cancer. So several states have now legalized it, but the US FDA has banned the vitamins. But they are available in cherry stones if you have really good teeth. No, I'm just kidding. Don't use your teeth. But lots of other vitamins can help promote good health in specific ways, not just in general. So vitamin A is prescribed after operations to prevent impotency. That sometimes men can become impotent, I didn't even know this, after surgery, unless they prescribe a vitamin A supplement. And of course, the B vitamins, like vitamin B12, people talk about that a lot. And treating high blood pressure is also important to your health, for men, especially for, I think, obvious reasons. Now, one thing I do want to mention about the B vitamins is that if you are taking supplemental B vitamins and you start getting ice pick headaches, and you will know what I am talking about if you get one, okay? So don't bother asking me in the comments. I think it's descriptive enough. If you start getting these headaches, it means that the B vitamins are affecting your myelin sheaths, and that you need to get blood work done before you continue taking them. And that's just something I'm adding from personal experience. And I mention that not as a medical professional, but anecdotally from my own experience. So I'm telling you because I think it could be helpful, but I'm not a doctor. Vitamin C, its role in promoting good sexual health is not really understood, but it is understood that it could have an effect against general debility, and therefore it would obviously have a wonderful effect on your love life. And vitamin D, of course, is required for the proper assimilation of calcium and phosphorus. Now, it's said that it's produced in the body from sunlight, but actually there's a lot of complexity to the way that vitamin D is absorbed in the body, and that sunlight is a factor, but it's not the only one. So make sure that you're living a lifestyle that can help you get enough vitamin D, or else you won't be getting any of the D, right? Vitamin E is not an aphrodisiac, but is one of the general vitamins that can promote virility. Some other things that promote virility are dongquai, which is an herb from Chinese medicine that can be taken by both men and women, or if you fall somewhere on that spectrum. There's cordyceps, which is actually a fungus that grows on the head of caterpillars, and is another thing like ginseng that kind of promotes good energy levels. And then there is something called rocket, which is part of the brassica family, so that's kind of like broccoli or kale, and is said to kind of resemble certain parts of the male anatomy, and through that correlation and through its energizing effects can be an aphrodisiac. And finally, I want to talk about, this is kind of like a whole category, a whole blanket category that contains many somewhat different items that, in my opinion, you should avoid using altogether, because it really has the potential to ruin your good time more than it does to make it better. And this is the category of caustic substances. So, if you've ever been in the kitchen with your sweetheart preparing a delicious meal, and of course you're putting lots of hot peppers in there because you want to get excited and stimulate your senses, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what I'm talking about. Imagine rubbing your eye after cutting up a hot pepper. Sometimes even like hours later, you forget that at lunch you had cut up a hot pepper, and you touch your face and immediately regret it and go and wash all of your hands and all of your skin that is exposed. So why am I bringing this up? Well, for one, pepper is sometimes used in this way, especially in those like warming lubricants and things like that. It's good to use lubricant, especially if you need it, but be cautious and wary of extra ingredients. There is also something called Spanish fly, and a along with that in the same category are things like the blister fly and the blister beetle. And it's right there in the name that these are caustic substances. And so, if you think that you are going to excite someone by exposing them to this very caustic substance, I invite you to re-examine your priorities and maybe watch this video back from the beginning, because I've given you lots of other alternatives that are much more fun for everyone involved. And I certainly don't judge. I think a lot of people don't have a good idea of what Spanish fly actually is. They talk about it in like Beastie Boys songs and stuff like that. So I don't even know how much people even talk about it anymore. But I did want to mention that here at the very end of the video, so that those of you who stuck around would find out more about it. And perhaps spread some knowledge to your friends and loved ones. So thank you for joining me while I talk about my favorite aphrodisiacs. I hope that you had a fun time. I certainly did. I am making this video prior to Valentine's Day, so if you see it before Valentine's Day, I hope that you have a wonderful one. Alone, in a group, with a close friend, with a beloved partner, however you end up spending it. And I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.